leave my wallet somewhere, or my glasses, or my keys.
He still does.
I still misplace them, but I try to keep them on me, more. But the other thing was, I noticed when I was putting using the Core-Aid and putting what is it?
The
K-cup. And then I go to the refrigerator to get the cream, and I forget whether I put the K-cup in, so I knew there was something wrong. So then because I know a lot of people don't, what do you call it?
Well, they don't want to accept or think.
Yeah, accept,
oh my
of
gosh,
course.
is this really happening to me?
Yeah. I forget the word.
And that happens too, difficulty with word
Yeah.
finding, and not all the time. But
Yeah.
sometimes you just give them their time to,
Right.
to find it, or,
Yeah.
so, I don't know. We're in it for the long haul.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for sharing your story and hopefully inspiring everyone else here, and it inspired me. And now I'd love to, unless you ladies have anything else you want to say right now, I'd love to get some questions if there are any.
One quick thing I do want to mention, because I was just thinking about this while you were talking. Once you enter a clinical trial, if you decide that it is not going to work for you,
Absolutely.
for any reason, you don't have to explain yourself to us. You just say, I no longer want to participate in this clinical trial. We might shed a little tear in the corner of our eyes, but we'll wipe it quickly so you don't see us cry. But it is your decision throughout the entire time you are involved in this study, whether you continue forward or not. And there is nothing comes of the fact that you've decided to stop participating. There is no, I'm trying to think
Repercussion?
of... Repercussions, yes. There are no repercussions to you. Nothing changes. We are so appreciative of everybody who even considers participation in clinical research. And we understand that situations may change in your life that make it difficult to continue in a study. And we're just grateful for any of the time that we get with you. So...
And we're so grateful that you all just came out on a drizzly night to hear what is so important to all of us and our work, and to have us share this with you. And we'd just be really happy for any questions you might have. Yes?
Hi, I have a question. So I hear a lot about Alzheimer's disease. Are you doing any clinical studies for other types of dementia? I know my mother-in-law had Lewy body dementia. There's so many different types of dementia, different medications for different dementias, and different treatments. So are you doing any other studies other than just Alzheimer's?
Right now, at Butler Hospital, that's our primary focus at the moment, as well as more observational trials. But for right now, it's within that realm.
So it's covering a variety of dementias, Alzheimer's and related.
Alzheimer's
dementias.
is predominantly Alzheimer's
It's
at
predominantly
this moment in time.
Okay.
And I think the reason that we're focused so much on Alzheimer's disease is because 2/3 of those living with the dementia in this world are living with Alzheimer's type dementia. But my family, you said Lewy bodies, my family has frontotemporal dementia. And I do believe that once we unlock the mystery to Alzheimer's disease, it will have a cascading effect and also help us understand and treat more effectively all the other dementias, not to mention other brain diseases such as Parkinson's and Huntington's disease. So this is where we're focusing our attention, with the thought that this will be informative to all other dementias.
I just want to say, and we also find that sometimes that people are just misdiagnosed. And what's really going on is Alzheimer's, because I've been in this field for 35 years. I have met tens of thousands of people with Alzheimer's, and now 2 of them are alike. So even though there's a typical progression of the disease, it may be that somebody was misdiagnosed, so it's still worth calling and getting an evaluation if you're not really sure. If somebody thinks it might be this, but they're not sure, I mean, it still might be worth making a phone call. We've had people misdiagnosed several times with temporal lobe or a multi-infarct dementia that actually had Alzheimer's.
What if they already have a diagnosis? Can they still come to you for a screening?
You know what, that's a one-on-one thing.
Okay.
That's a telephone call,
Okay.
and then we can figure it out from there. I'm just saying, unless it's, really well documented and they've had it, the progression is very clear, particularly if it's a new diagnosis and you're not 100% sure and you want another opinion, then yeah, a phone call is fine, and then we can go from there. It's happened, it's happened where they've been misdiagnosed.
What is the funding? Do you have to use the Blue Cross?
Can I answer this since I
Please
got it?
do.
All right.
Yeah. Question.
No,
Thank you for that.
no,
You'll hear that.
no,
How
no,
are
no,
the
no, no.
trials funded?
For all of the research that we do, the drug company that is sponsoring for drug trials, for clinical trials involving, a new compound to cure Alzheimer's, the drug company pays us. And then you get a stipend. All of the studies provide a stipend, a travel stipend to you. But for the Eastside Band 401 study, which is one of the studies that we're all doing, I mean, actually for the Tau study as well, you're getting a $10,000 workup. By the time you get to that PET scan and the Tau PET and all of the other the MRI, all the other evaluations, you're getting this really incredible workup to determine if you have the disease or not. And all of that is paid by the sponsor. It's not paid by you.
Yeah, we don't have any studies, and Butler, I'm sure, is the same, where you have any copay or any payment
No.
whatsoever. All the studies, because you are participating in the research, there is no cost at all to you.
What is the focus of each of your studies? I hear drug medications, but what are you looking at specifically?
Great time to talk about the science.
You have the mic. You can start it off.
At Butler, so we have we have drug trial studies, we have observational studies that could involve maybe blood draws, EKGs, cerebral spinal fluid, so the lumbar puncture that you might hear about. We have those kinds of trials, and we're always constantly evaluating to see if there are other trials that we would be able to take on that would be beneficial to the community as well. So it ranges, and that's why I think we were all saying that we want everyone to participate regardless of whether or not you have a diagnosis of any memory impairment, because there's so many different trials that are coming out on a regular basis. And that at any moment we could take on a trial and be like, this would be great for this particular population without. And everyone is different, and especially when these age ranges are going younger, people are still working full time. We want to be able to accommodate that, and so there's different ways to go about that as well. So I think it's focused on a lot, but I mean, right now, we have some prevention trials, we have some studies for mild cognitive impairment or early Alzheimer's disease, and also a series of observational studies as well. And like I said, in beginning of next year, we're looking forward to hopefully being able to offer a couple more prevention studies, which I think would be really nice here in Rhode Island.
So one of the studies that I was thinking about while Tara was talking is a study called the ADNI study. It's the Alzheimer's disease and neuroimaging study. It's been going on for about 8 years. It is an observational study. It doesn't require the use of any medication. We're looking at people's brains as they age with this disease, and it is informing all kinds of research that is going on in the world. So those brain images and the biospecimens collected as part of that study, again, are shared worldwide. Both Butler and Rhode Island Hospital are sites for that. We are still enrolling. They've just extended enrollment into 2020 for this. We're especially looking for more minority population people to join us in this study. But this is a historic study that has provided so much information to researchers worldwide to help them pinpoint and target areas of the brain and different types of treatments and lifestyle modifications that benefit the brain. So that's an amazing research study that's going on. And I think we would be remiss not to talk a little bit about aducanumab study. Many of you heard recently that Biogen has revived or resurrected a drug that just earlier this year they determined was not of benefit and so stopped the study. Well, they've reworked the data that they've gotten and are seeing that there are signals that this is beneficial for this disease, and so that is starting back up soon at our sites. And aducanumab is a drug that we think has great potential of being the next FDA-approved drug for the treatment of Alzheimer's disease. So that is thrilling and exciting news for all of us in this field.
Absolutely.
And I'm thinking too, one more thing that I was going to share. So we talked about taking these biospecimens, blood samples from people. One of the things that has done is hopefully provided us a way to diagnose Alzheimer's disease from a blood sample. We are on the cusp of that, and that will be such a game changer in research, because that 9-year-old who's carrying that disease in their body will be able to see it at that age, and hopefully we'll have treatment that we can start right away to eradicate it before any of the signs or symptoms come. So when we talk about how excited we are about research, we really are excited. This is the golden age. There has never been the breadth and depth. There's never been the collaboration and sharing of information. And we invite you all to consider being what we call affectionately citizen scientists and joining us in this fight to end this disease. Be part of our mission. Be a part of our team. We're working hard every day at all of our sites with all of our staff to find a way to end this.
Terry, you have a question?
You had mentioned earlier about misdiagnosis. It's a two-part question, really. The difference between dementia and Alzheimer's, and how do you diagnose the Alzheimer's?
Right.
Can you repeat the question?
We're going to do Alzheimer's 101 right now. All right, we're going to go, I'm just going to be brief though, because this is a whole hour and a half
The
left.
question in the back.
Okay.
Ask the question.
Yeah, the question is, the difference between dementia and Alzheimer's,
Okay.
and how do you go about diagnosing the Alzheimer's?
Okay, so briefly, Alzheimer's is a type of dementia. Okay, so there are several types of dementia. Lewy body dementia, frontotemporal. You can get a dementia from vascular dementia from multiple strokes. You can get a dementia from drinking too much. There's I got the one that doesn't work again? All right. Told you it's a mechanical thing with me. My Mercury is in a permanent retrograde. So that's basically that question. But, as we were saying, 75, the stats are
67,
75% of dementias are Alzheimer's. I think the next one is Lewy body is the next, and then vascular dementia is the next in terms of the frequency. Now, the way you differentiate, back in the day before we were able to do PET scans, we used to just do it as a clinical diagnosis, and it was actually a diagnosis of ruling out if anything else was going on. So we know that in Alzheimer's disease, it's a slow, steady, global decline. If somebody had vascular dementia, we would know that it's a stepwise decline. Most people with a vascular dementia, if I asked their loved one, when did you notice something was happening, they'd say Christmas Eve, they fell down the stairs. Ever since then, they're just not the same. If I asked somebody who had Alzheimer's disease, when did you first notice somebody was starting to have trouble, they'd say, I don't know, maybe in the last 6 months, last year. They can't tell me that exact moment. So that's just an example. But we know certain things are going to happen. You're going to start to have short-term memory loss. You're going to have issues with orientation. You're going to have issues with judgment. Which comes first? It varies on the individual. Like I said, everybody's a little different. Short-term memory decline is that hallmark symptom. We all expect to see that. And then from there. And then we would give them MRIs and do blood work to rule out if they had strokes or if their B12 was off or their thyroid level was off. And, we just make sure that there's nothing medically going on with them. And then when you get the MRI also would tell us if they have something else going on, like normal pressure hydrocephalus or a multitude of small strokes that could be causing memory trouble. But now we have the PET scan. And this amyloid PET actually measures the amount of amyloid in your brain. And we're able to determine, and that's what happens with some of our study folks. They'll come in and they look like they're declining. They look like they have the disease, but they're not having that amyloid, the positive amyloid in their brain. We can also now determine from cerebrospinal fluid if somebody has amyloid, too much amyloid in their brain. Because their cerebrospinal fluid levels are too low in amyloid, that means it's hanging around in their brain, which is where we don't want it. And just to go back to your question about the different drug trials we're doing, right now we're all doing a drug trial that attacks the amyloid, and that's the BAN2401-301 trial. I just want to get this in because we didn't really talk about this yet. It's basically a vaccine against the amyloid in your brain, and it's removing the amyloid. I can't talk with one hand. The Italians are having problems here. So that's one study. It's an infusion study, and you come in once every 2 weeks, and it removes the amyloid from your brain. It goes into open label after 18 months, and that means that even though it's a 50-50 shot, you're going to get the study drug for the first 18 months, you'll definitely get it after those 18 months. The other drug study we're all doing, I think you're doing the tau too. Are you doing the TM-tau? No. The laureate?
No,
Okay.
we're not there.
You're doing it. So for the BAN2401, we're looking for people with mild cognitive impairment, and we're looking for people with mild AD. And again, don't worry about what that means. We can figure it out when you come to visit us. But if you were newly diagnosed, that's the study for you. The mTau study that we're doing is going after the tau in the brain. You all know about the amyloid plaques and the tau tangles, right? So, like we were saying, we all think that we're going to cure this disease by a combination of treatments. So we're also looking at the tau. The tau protein is destroying brain cells. And once it takes off, it doesn't stop. So what we're trying to do is stop that tau from destroying brain cells. So the other study we're doing now, in this study, which is rare, we're looking for people with moderate Alzheimer's who have had the diagnosis 3 to 5 years, and who are on their way, on their journey, right in the middle of it. And which is an awesome thing because most studies are only focused towards people who are just being diagnosed. So that's what's going on right now in Rhode Island. And these are international studies. So it's pretty cool that the three of us are all representing institutions that are doing them right here in Little Rhodey.
So we have time for a couple more questions right back here.
I want to go back to the ADNI study. At one point, the ADNI study was recruiting cognitively normal people. So people that have absolutely no sign of disease that want to help to find a cure. Are they still recruiting the cognitively normal?
So that's a great question. She's asking if the ADNI study that is currently going on is still recruiting cognitively normal people. At the beginning of this study, that they were taking anybody who was cognitively normal, those people with mild cognitive impairment, and those people with mild AD. Recently, they're getting ready to close the study. They were thinking they were going to do that this year, but they pushed off to next year. So right now, they are only recruiting for individuals in the minority population who are cognitively normal, meaning not having any memory or thinking problems right now. They are still recruiting individuals over the age of 55 who have mild cognitive impairment or mild Alzheimer's disease. But again, that just speaks to the need for more minority participation in this clinical research. Here's a study that's been going on for 8 years, and they have plenty of Caucasian individuals who are not experiencing memory and thinking problems, and nowhere near enough minorities who are having cognitively normal brain function right now. So it speaks again to the fact that this research can't be just done for a certain segment of this population. It has to be done for everyone.
I couldn't hear
So
that,
couldn't
Annie.
hear
I'm
it.
sorry, honey.
Annie, I think maybe you can answer that question. I want to bring you a microphone that works.
You actually
So
heard
Annie
it?
is our pipeline with the Alzheimer's Association. And the Alzheimer's Association is a wonderful support for those who are living with this disease and their caregivers. And I know she can speak eloquently about this.
So I know the past that here in Rhode Island we have supported types of studies specifically for caregivers. And I was just wondering, about some of the ones that used to be at Rhode Island Hospital. But I do know that there's some studies that are being presented at the Marion Hospital. And I believe, and that's why I wanted to ask Terry if Dr. Tremont is still doing his care support study.
You're putting me on the you're putting me on the spot, and I can't honestly answer that. But if you'd like the answer to that question, you can call me tomorrow.
She'll
and
get
I will
it.
have that answer for you. I don't want to misspeak. I know we've done a number of those studies, but I haven't actually had an update recently on that.
One thing I just want to acknowledge is that if we can, family members and caregivers can find out about different types of trials that may support them to understand about caregiver stress, prevention, and there's studies throughout New England about understanding different kinds of supports that are available. Would a study be on telephone support? How is that more beneficial for getting supportive services one-on-one or in a group setting? You can actually go to the NIH website to learn about these type of alternative studies, which can give you a lot of information on that. And so I just wanted to see what you guys were aware of, and I didn't really want to be put on the spot on it, but we could definitely, if people are interested in that, we could find out more about these types of studies. So thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Annie. And I think now it is time for us to, we have time for one more?
We have time for one more question.
I think we have one right here. Yes.
You've spoken about family history. From what I know from my friends, from my family, we really didn't know what the illness was. They would say, oh, you got 4 out of 7 behavioral markers, and so let's call it Alzheimer's, or, everybody gets this sort of thing when they get to that age, or something like that. And really, unless there was an autopsy done, which very seldom was, nobody really knows from most of the people who are my elders anyway, my friends' elders, whether or not they actually had Alzheimer's. How do we tell?
So the question was about how do you know whether you have a family history? And we talk about this a lot because, my family, we have a dementia, but I had family members that died of tuberculosis at a young age, died in house fires. So we don't know when this started in the family or who carried it down the line. So I always say, if you suspect you're having a memory or thinking problem, even if you don't know what your family history is, we can do memory tests to help determine whether you are actually experiencing what we call something more or just having a senior moment. And that's something we need to really understand better. Like, when are we having a senior moment and when is this something to worry about? And I actually have a handout at my table that can help you ask some questions. Annie's probably got some information in, as well as my other colleagues. But when in doubt, I always say, follow up, follow through. One of the things we really have to start doing is admitting we're having a problem, and then the next thing to do is to talk to your primary care physician or whoever your medical professional is. I can't tell you, and I'm sure my colleagues share the same situation, where someone will call up and say, I'd like to join one of your clinical research studies, and I say, do you have a diagnosis? And they say, no, I don't have a diagnosis. I said, have you spoken to a doctor, a medical professional about this? No. So the first thing I do is encourage them to have this conversation with their doctor. And if you say to them, I'm having concerns, I don't know if I have a family history. I mean, now we can go in and look to see if you have the ApoE4 gene, which is the risk gene, and I'm going to stress that, a risk gene. It does not mean you will get Alzheimer's disease. You are just at a potentially greater risk than someone who does not have that. And we can test for that now. So this is all this advancing of science that's happening. We can see in your brain the disease now. We can see in your cerebral spinal fluid the disease now. Soon we're going to see in your blood the disease now. So we'll have better ways of telling you that you have risk or that you have this disease.
Just to add on to that, making sure, one of the things that we as a whole global community can do is to demand of our doctors that they also give us a regular checkup from the neck up, just as much as we would expect everything from the neck down every year. And making sure that that is part of that conversation, putting it on like your little list of things that you need to speak with your doctor about, and to talk about any concerns that you may have. How often is it happening? When do you see it? What do your family members say? Have that conversation and make that part a priority every year so that you can follow up as necessary, whether it's getting that neuropsychological exam, which is an extremely thorough test, but you're getting a baseline and it's based on you. And it's not based on anyone else, not based on some regular stats that they would normally be done. And then a couple years down the line, you're able to take a look and see if there are any changes, significant changes at that. So I spoke earlier about planning ahead, and that's one of those things that we can do, and we're making sure that everyone demands that right up front now.
All right. Well, time has come. We do have to end. We'll have a little bit of time after if you want to talk to our panelists one-on-one. Ladies, I can't thank you enough. My staff thanks you enough. Maria, what do you think? Great job. We could be here for hours.
And I just want to thank you for being in the great dementia-friendly city
Oh,
of Cranston.
yes. All right, so there's some refreshments back there. Please talk to the panelists, visit the tables, and thank you again for coming.
Well, folks, thank you for watching this nice episode. I hope you enjoy, especially the interview with Council President Michael Farina. For me, it was really special to learn that he's actually not Italian in his heritage, that his family actually comes from Spain. As you heard on the interview, his last name was Faria and then changed to Farina, and then they came to Providence and so on, and he grew up in Cranston. So that was phenomenal to learn. And also, we are closing 1 year grant of the Tufts Health Plan Foundation Momentum Fund. You saw that segment, and I hope you learn a lot. If you want to learn more information or need more information about Alzheimer's and other dementias, please contact us directly at the telephone number you see here below on the screen, 401, of course, 780-6000, or you can also visit our website where you can find an array of very rich information. That is Cranston Department of Senior Services.com. See you next time. Thank you.